Every parent going through divorce in the U.S. thinks child support is simple. One parent pays, the other collects, and the state enforces it. But what if I told you there's a legal loophole buried in the fine print that can completely change how much you pay or receive? And the shocking part? Most lawyers won't bring it up unless you ask. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on the child support loophole nobody talks about, and it could save you thousands of dollars or cost you everything if you ignore it. Let's start with how child support is normally calculated. In most U.S. states, child support is based on guidelines. The court looks at both parents' incomes, the number of children, and the custody arrangement. Sounds straightforward, right? But here's the twist. Those guidelines aren't set in stone. Judges can, and often do, deviate from them when specific circumstances are brought up. That's where the loophole comes in. Now, let's talk about the loophole itself. The part of child support calculations that most parents don't realize is negotiable. It all comes down to one question. What really counts as income? At first glance, that sounds simple. You'd think income means the paycheck you bring home every 2 weeks, right? But here's where it gets tricky. The law doesn't treat every dollar the same. Some money is counted, some isn't, and in some cases, it depends on how predictable that income is. Take overtime, for example. Imagine you're a nurse who regularly picks up extra shifts. That overtime pay might feel like part of your regular income, but depending on your state, a judge could say, well, that's not guaranteed, so we won't include it in the calculation. On the flip side, if your employer consistently gives you overtime, your spouse's lawyer might argue that it is predictable, and suddenly the court counts it. The same dollar can either raise or lower your child support, depending on how it's presented. Or consider bonuses and commissions. Let's say you're in sales, and every year you get a $20,000 end-of-year bonus. In some states, the court may average that bonus over 12 months and add it into your income. In others, they may ignore it if it's not guaranteed. So one parent might end up paying hundreds more each month, while another, in a different state, pays nothing extra at all, even with the same bonus. Now here's where the loophole gets even bigger: self-employment and small business ownership. If you own a business, you can legally write off certain expenses, things like your car, your phone, even part of your housing costs if you claim a home office. To the IRS, that's legitimate. But in divorce court, those deductions can shrink your reported income dramatically. Picture this. A business owner drives a $60,000 SUV, pays for it through the company, writes off the gas, and even takes clients out to expensive dinners, all of it deducted as a business expense. On paper, it looks like he's barely scraping by, maybe pulling in $70,000 a year. But in reality, he's living a lifestyle that looks much closer to $120,000. The difference between what he really earns and what he reports can change his child support by thousands every single month. Unless the other parent knows to challenge those numbers, the court might never look deeper. And then there's the gray area of retirement contributions and certain benefits. Some courts don't count money tucked away in a 401k as available income, even though that's real wealth being built. Other times, housing allowances, company cars, or per diem payments are left out of the equation, even when they clearly reduce living costs. Here's the shocking part. A parent who is actually earning $120,000 a year could walk in a court appearing, on paper, to earn only $70,000. That $50,000 gap doesn't just vanish. It gets translated into a smaller child support obligation. We're not talking about a minor difference here. Depending on the state guidelines, that gap could swing payments by hundreds or even thousands of dollars every single month. And that, right there, is the loophole. It's not about breaking the law. It's about how the definition of income can be stretched, shaped, or narrowed, often depending on who asks the right questions and who doesn't. If no one raises it, the court simply accepts the numbers in front of them. This is the loophole. Child support isn't automatically fair. It depends on how well you know what counts as income and whether you or your lawyer raise the issue in court. Now, you might wonder, why don't lawyers always bring this up? Here's the truth. Lawyers work within the guidelines, and many avoid challenging income definitions because it takes extra effort, digging into tax returns, payroll records, and sometimes even hiring forensic accountants. Unless you push for it, your lawyer may stick to the easy numbers. But here's the kicker. Judges expect you to raise these issues. If you don't, they'll use the default numbers, and the loophole either benefits or hurts you without a second thought. So, now that you understand how the child support loophole works, the big question becomes, how do you use it to your advantage, or, at the very least, protect yourself from being on the losing end of it? The first step is simple, but most people skip it. Demand full financial disclosure. Don't just take your spouse's word for what they earn. Courts allow, and in most cases require, both sides to exchange financial documents. That means tax returns, pay stubs, W-2s, 1099s, and if there's a business involved, corporate filings and expense reports. If you don't ask, you don't get. And if you don't get, you're relying on your spouse's honesty. And I can tell you from years of cases, that's rarely a safe bet. The second step is knowing your state's rules. Child support law isn't one size fits all. Each state has its own formula, and each one treats income differently. For example, in New York, annual bonuses are often included because they're seen as part of regular compensation. But in Florida, if a bonus isn't guaranteed, the court may leave it out. That difference alone could mean thousands of dollars gained or lost every year. So don't assume the law in your state works the same way it did for your friend in another state. It doesn't. Next, look for hidden benefits. Income isn't just about a paycheck. If your spouse has a company car, free housing, or even a regular per diem allowance, those perks lower their living costs. In many cases, those benefits can be considered income by the court. Think about it this way. If one parent never has to pay for gas, car insurance, or even rent, that's money freed up in their budget, money that should be factored into child support. The fourth strategy is to challenge suspicious write-offs. This one is especially important if your spouse is self-employed or runs a business. If you see them suddenly writing off family vacations as business trips or expensive dinners as client meetings, that's a red flag. Judges do take this seriously. If you can prove that those so-called business expenses are really personal luxuries, the court can add that money back into the income calculation. And finally, this part is crucial. Document your own income honestly. I know it's tempting to shave off a little here or there, maybe leave out a side gig or understate a bonus, but the risk isn't worth it. Courts can penalize you for underreporting. Worse, if the judge thinks you're being dishonest, it damages your credibility, and that can affect not just child support, but custody decisions too. Transparency is your best defense. Remember, this isn't about greed, and it's not about punishing the other parent. It's about making sure child support reflects the real financial picture, so your kids are provided for fairly, without one parent gaming the system. The loophole exists, yes, but whether it works for or against you depends on how prepared you are to deal with it. The sad truth is that many parents walk out of court with unfair child support orders, either paying way more than they should or receiving far less than their kids deserve, all because they didn't know about this loophole. The court isn't there to do your homework. You, or your lawyer, have to shine the light on hidden income, hidden deductions, and creative accounting tricks. If you don't, nobody else will. So here's the bottom line. Child support isn't as cut and dry as the state calculator makes it seem. The real number depends on how well you understand this loophole, what counts as income and what doesn't. If you found this eye-opening, subscribe to this channel. Every week, I break down the hidden traps and secrets of the divorce process in the U.S., so you don't get blindsided.